Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cradle News Roundup coming to you live. My name is Esteban Carrillo. I am the news editor for the Cradle, and I'm joined by my colleagues, content creator and writer for the Cradle, Karim Shami, and content creator and social media manager for the Cradle, Sima Itaim. We're sorry for the brief delay, as usual, sometimes in these situations. There's some technical difficulties, but we thank you for waiting for us. And before we start, just make sure to hit that like button. We really need the help to continue to grow our audience and subscribe to the channel. Well, you know the drill. In any case, let's start with the summit in Qatar, the Doha summit, where all of the Arab and Islamic leaders, or well, leaders from Islamic nations, are meeting to find a cohesive response against the Israeli attack in Qatar. And well, there's already some information about what the statement's going to entail. And, spoiler alert, not much there. A statement, yet another one that we can add to the pile of condemnations of, of calling to an end to the genocide, of saying Israel is acting as a rogue state. I think, well, you guys, I'll let you guys go on. I think, Sima, you might have actually more information on the actual wording of the statement. What do these Arab and Islamic leaders plan to say following the summit?
Well, before I talk about the draft, because there's a draft agreement that came out yesterday, I'd like to talk about the opening remarks of the Qatari Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, because everyone was, impressed with his words. And so I would just like to give you a few of those quotes before we go into the draft agreement. While this summit is, keep in mind, ongoing, it has not ended. So he says very clearly that what happened must be met with fierce and firm measures, and that they cannot remain silent in the face of this barbaric attack, because if they remain silent, they will be faced with an unlimited and countless series of aggressions that will end in total destruction, and no country will be spared. So he's made it pretty clear with these opening remarks that it can't be just statements of condemnation. And so people were counting on, they were hoping that this would be more than, a few words. As you mentioned in the last episode, when Sayyid Abdul Malik al-Houthi talked about how this has become a policy or a strategy now, that no one else in the world does this, but the Arabs do this, where it's like words and that's it. So this
Especially when
draft,
coming under attack, right? Like coming under direct
right?
attack.
So we don't know what happens later, okay? Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, although I highly doubt it, but I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt. But we have this draft of the Arab-Islamic summit statement in Doha from last night, where they say, basically, this is like the joint statement, they reaffirm absolute support for Qatar, its security, sovereignty, and the safety of its citizens. They emphasize the collective duty to respond to Israeli aggression in defense of their shared security. They condemn the Israeli attack on Qatar as an assault on all Arab and Islamic countries. They highlight that the aggression against Qatar undermines diplomatic efforts to restore peace. Okay, and I think that includes normalization. So it's more of this threatens normalization, right? Which everyone wants. Yes. Strongly reject any attempts to justify Israel's attack on Qatar under any pretext. Okay. Condemn repeated Israeli threats to target Qatar again. Okay. Condemn repeated Israeli threats to target Qatar again. Stress the need for international action to stop Israeli aggressions in the region. No concrete measures here. Support Qatar, Egypt, and the United States' efforts to halt the assault on Gaza. I mean, what even is that? Call for standing against Israel's plans to impose a new reality in the region. Standing against the plans. How? We don't know.
Everything's up in the air, right, in this draft agreement. It's a lot of proclamations, a lot of, pearl clutching. Yeah. No actual, again, and like just to repeat what Sima said, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, at least for now. But so far, it doesn't seem like there's any actions that could be taken. And last week, Haaretz had this report that Qatar was lobbying the UAE, because MB said the president of the UAE visited Doha the day after the attack. I think, if I'm not mistaken, was the day after the Israeli attack. And then, there was this information that they were lobbying UAE to close down their embassy I would imagine their embassies in Tel Aviv. Nobody else has come out with any information about this. Like, you have, in this image we're seeing on the screen, I don't know how many flags you have there. It's definitely more than 15. all of these countries coming together to put out a statement. Karim, do
I
you think?
think
Go ahead.
I think we have information. It's from our fan Pittsburgh, 87. He says Qatar will take all the strongly worded letters from Arab regimes to make a mighty paper airplane fighter jet to send to arm the resistance. So
Breaking news, everybody.
breaking news only on the cradle.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, hala, my thoughts is that first, the Arabs are already divided. Here in our region, we have at least too many viewers and many journalists. We had three main um, uh, sides, we can say it, or
Axes.
coalitions or axes. We had the Iran axis, which had Syria, Hezbollah, the resistance groups, some of the resistance people in Iraq and other places, and we have another axis, which is the Ikhwan axis, which is the Qatari and Turkish axis, and the third one is led by Saudi Arabia and UAE, and under it there is like Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, and Egypt. I think by Israel bombing Qatar, this doesn't make the other Arab nations weak or make them urgent to like escalate against Israel. I think Saudi Arabia and UAE are happy of what happened, and I don't think they will take any measures. That's one. That's politically. Hala, physically, if they want to take measures, they can, because simply Arabs are very weak. They don't have the means. They don't have the experience. And as we said last time, usually since decades, they rely on Western protection, and especially the United States protection. I don't think Qatar or any Arab country has the capability or has the ability to launch missiles or anything against Israel.
I mean,
That's
they,
as simple as that for me.
But wait a second, this is, forget military intervention or military responses. My question is to you, Karim, what would the West, or what would the US and Israel do if the Abraham Accords countries simply severed all ties with Israel? What would they do? Bomb them all? They could do it. They simply don't want to do it, right?
Yeah, but I think I was clear. I talked about the third axis, which
Yeah.
has Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, and also under their wings there is Jordan, Egypt, and if you go far away, you will see Morocco. These countries, according to the balance of power of the region, for instance, when Iran was struck and Hezbollah failed in the last war against Israel, you saw many parties and many countries getting stronger, although they didn't do anything. Like the internal parties in Lebanon, now they all don't want Hezbollah. Previously, they didn't act like this. And for instance, when Bashar al-Assad vanished from Syria, you saw many people now they don't have any problems with ex-Daesh personnel. So, and now, of course, when the Iran axis was weakened, you saw many voices raising in the Gulf countries. Yeah? So these two axes were happy, but now one of these axes were bombed, which is Qatar. So I think the only countries that will try to make anything is Qatar and Turkey and some small parties in the Arab world and Muslim world that are aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood. The third axis, which is Saudi Arabia and UAE, in my vision, according to the balance of power, now they are more powerful than the other side because they were bombed. Hala, you're telling me maybe Saudi Arabia and UAE will be bombed? I don't think so. But even if they will be bombed, I don't think they have the ability to see that this will happen or to act against Israel. That's what I am saying. Because many people, and even people from the cradle or people that I know closely, they think that the people that are today in the summit, as if they are all allies or as if they are all have the same vision. It's not that case. There's people that are happy of what happened. There are people that are willing to even give money to Israel to continue its genocide. And there's people that want this war to happen. And there's people that have the ability and they don't want to do anything. And the opposite thing. So it's not as easy as people think. I don't think that if the summit ends and there's a paper that whatever the foreign minister of Qatar will read, this will tell, this will be obliged to Saudi Arabia or UAE or Bahrain or any other country. I think the only countries that will be happy to implement what the paper, whatever it says, I think it's only Qatar
Turkey.
and Turkey, because the other countries, such as Lebanon, my ex-lovely country, now we are under the wing of Saudi Arabia and the United States. We're not under the wing of Qatar. When Bashar left, everybody thought that Sharia, who came, who was Julani, everybody thought that Qatar will rule him, but apparently I think he loves to be with Saudi Arabia. I don't know where he will stand, although whatever he says makes no sense or meaning. So we have to wait and see. And of course, we know that Jordan and Egypt, they take money from UAE and Saudi Arabia. They don't take money from Qatar. So Qatar bought many journalists and they bought many figures in the Arab world. But countries, if we want to take to talk about policies of countries, they only have Turkey, and we will see what will happen. And some Central Asian countries who are very good with Turkey, like Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and these countries. But unfortunately, these countries, they don't have any way in international politics.
Okay, we have a comment, Strav 12. You didn't listen to the individual leaders' speeches. Sisi and Erdogan said that military actions need to be taken and military security should be a shared priority. So I made it clear at the beginning of this episode that this is ongoing. And so since we are streaming right now, we are not, we're following updates, but we're not. Yeah, and I mean, great, let's see,
Karim, I
Let's
think we can remove that picture.
Thank you for the
I'm a bit
comment.
sick of looking at these people.
Sorry.
Right now. Yes, I mean, Sisi and Erdogan, it's not the first time they talked about military action in Israel. I mean, they've been talking about it. Sisi at one point mobilized troops to the Sinai Desert at the same time that they were building this contention area. Remember that the people, the residents in the area said it was being built to hold as many as 500,000 Palestinians there who are going to be pushed out of Gaza. Turkey, Erdogan has really wrapped himself in the Palestinian flag, calling Netanyahu the modern day Hitler, calling Israel a terrorist state, etc. Really. But then when it comes to actions, when it comes to actually let's end trade, let's sanction Israel, let's call for something that actually hurts the Zionist entity. Nothing. He actually gives waivers for the companies, for Turkish companies, to continue to do business with Israel. When Hakan Fidan, whatever his name is, Hakan Fidan, the foreign minister, he said, remember a couple of weeks ago, we are blocking Israeli planes from flying in our airspace, and ships will no longer go to Israeli ports. And as he said that, there were Israeli planes flying over Turkey, and a ship was actually headed to Haifa port. So I don't put a lot of weight in what Sisi and Erdogan say at the summit, because they are masters at talking, and masters at not doing anything too.
Yeah, I mean, what I see from the Turkish president here from a short while ago is more about economic pressure. So I'm just looking at these updates now. So whatever we have about military, I mean, I cannot take that seriously until it happens. And when it happens, I'll stand corrected. I mean, there's just one thing I want to say about this quickly as well, which is that for me personally, and I think, okay, so the second Qatar came out and separated Israel from the US, it automatically discredited itself. Now, as you see we have, I don't know if you guys recall Axios reporting that Qatar was reassessing, just looking for other partners, aside from the US. Qatar instantly came out and said that report was wrong and that Qatar's ties with the US are amazing. And this is despite the fact that this strike on Qatar was fully approved by the US and coordinated by the US. I was talking about this with Charmaine yesterday, and she said, well, it's opportunistic and it's smart of Qatar, and it makes sense for Qatar to blame Israel and not the US because Israel has become the convenient punching bag. So Qatar, of course, separates the two because everyone's taking aim at Israel now. But I'm sorry, that's fine. I understand that. She's right. But then this will go nowhere. Qatar cannot come out and pretend that Israel did this without the US and then expect us to take Qatar seriously at all. Point and period.
And whatever the they manage to like say or do. It's also will forever be a disgrace whatever they do because they did this because 10 missiles hit Qatar, and every day there is like hundreds of missiles hit and kill people in Gaza and in Lebanon and Syria, and the Arabs did nothing. This means that's not a summit for Arabs, not summit for Muslims. This is a summit for people or for poor countries that are being bought by another rich countries and forced to do things. That's in my vision. Whatever comes from this summit.
I
That's
feel
one.
like
And I want to just to comment on something. I'm not saying like in my imagination what I am saying. Till now, there is no reliable statement from any Arab countries or any comment of how Israel bombed Qatar. Arabs are as weak as you think, or less or more weak,
more.
till at least when there was Syria. Syria during Bashar Assad, at least the Syrian army knew where and how they were bombed, and they released statements and blah blah blah. Till now, Qatar, I think they don't know even how they were bombed. That tells us how the United States and Israel now control the airspace of most of Arab countries.
Everywhere of all of West Asia, essentially.
And it's from their hands, Esteban. They
They
invited the
handle it.
United States. Yeah, they told, please protect us. Now that's what you
Exactly.
get.
That's the point. I feel, and I think you know what you said, Sima. My idea here is that I don't think you can really ever disconnect Israel from the U.S. And what I'm seeing from Qatar is that they're not just like blaming Israel instead of the U.S. Is they're blaming Netanyahu in particular. They're really like honing in into the government, which is the position that that Joe Biden had, that Erdogan has, that nobody actually goes and says like, hey, we actually this is a settler colonial state that is gone insane and is threatening the entire world. At this point, this is not just about Gaza or Lebanon or Syria or West Asia. This is literally the entire world is under threat from a rogue state, and everybody keeps acting like it's not. Like it's just Benjamin Netanyahu himself, and if you replace him, everything is fixed and everything will be fine. And my point about the U.S. and Israel, I don't think you can separate them. I think they represent the same goals. They represent the same strategy. If Israel gets away with what they're doing in Gaza, it's because the United States already got away with it in Iraq. What the atrocities that they committed in Iraq, the atrocities they committed in Afghanistan, in Vietnam, decades ago, or anywhere they have entered, in Nicaragua, in Guatemala, in Honduras, the whole of Central America.
The
It's
sanctions
just a
also.
bloodbath, and exactly, and then before them, the British. It's one big imperial project that is just kind of, it changes faces. It changes the faces that go in front of the camera, but the outcome is still the same, and it's domination. And I feel like these Arabs, these Arab leaders and these Muslim authorities, they're very okay with that. They are very, very okay with that because they are not showing any attempt. It's what Larijani said, right? The advisor to Ali Khamenei, what he said yesterday. It's like, you are facing annihilation and you're putting out statements. It's what Al-Houthi said last week, the leader of Ansar Allah. Like,
Yeah.
how shameful can you be that you are facing direct attacks and war and destruction? Like, Al-Thani, last week in his speech, it still blows my mind that in his first statements, he came out and he said, Netanyahu talks about withdrawing the Middle East. Does he also mean the Gulf region? What? Of course he means, he means the entirety of it. Like, you guys are just there to fill in, I don't know, to fill the coffers of the U.S. weapons industry by buying bombs, by buying missiles, like the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Bahrainis, who then open up their airspace for this rogue nation to come in and just bomb another one of these countries, violating every international law that there can be. And then what do? We condemn. We are gonna, get together and wag our finger at Israel.
Right.
Hala,
Yeah, I
there's many
mean,
simple. Yes, Simon.
no, go ahead.
I think there's many simple steps that they can take. Hala, two of them, I will say them now. In the current situation, they are imaginary, but I think Qatar should invite Houthis and Hezbollah to the summit because they are the people that can take action against Israel. That's one. And the second one, of course, it will not be from the Gulf countries because, like as I said, Gulf countries are so weak. It's not that like you think. The only two countries that can take actions against Israel, and they are like under the wing of Saudi Arabia and not even Qatar, are Jordan and Saudi and Egypt. For instance, till now, Egypt allows any ship, Israeli ship or whatever, to pass by the Suez Canal. And also, Egypt is now a re-export hub for Israel. And for instance, if you, Zim, which is a Israeli commercial
Shipping
company
company.
that ships many things. Now, what they are doing, they are shipping to Egypt, and from Egypt, they re export to Israel to undermine what the Houthis are doing. So, I think these are very important things. And of course, the biggest imaginary thing ever is to say to the United States that we don't want you on our lands, which is a big dream. So maybe during our episode or after we finish, we will see what they will come. Till now, I know I'm not that optimistic, but I wish I would be surprised at the end of this episode.
We all hope so, Karim. I want to thank Gulnara Marchis very quickly. We missed you in last episode, but thank you so much for your super chat. Continue giving us as many donations as you feel like, and make sure to hit that like button. Just a quick reminder. I personally don't have too much more to say about this Arab Summit, at least until the statement comes out. You know who else is there? Our boy Ahmed Al-Shara, the diversity lobbying jihadi, is also there. Mahmoud
Everybody
Abbas
is
is
there.
there. Nawaf Salam or Joseph Aoun are there.
Iran is there, yeah.
Iran is there.
Well,
Yeah, Joseph Aoun, which is the president of Lebanon, when I heard him, I thought he's like the new Sayyid Hassan, you know. He even like, yeah, he said that we should do something. Talks are not important anymore. We have to take actions. Our people are down. We should not like stay like this. I said, wow,
Joseph Aoun.
wow, yeah,
at
that's
least,
Joseph Aoun.
at least the Iranian president called on all these countries to cut ties with Israel ahead of the summit. At least, I'll give it. I'll
It's
give
the bare
Pezeshkian
minimum.
that much. At least, and yeah, Larijani, you mentioned his quote. A very strong quote. He's the chief of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, in case anyone has forgotten. So Ali Larijani yesterday says a warning to Islamic governments holding a conference of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation filled with speeches but without any practical outcome, as happens in UN Security Council meetings, is in reality nothing more than issuing a new license for aggression in favor of the Zionist entity. At the very least, form a joint operations room against the madness of this entity. Such a decision would be enough to unsettle the masters of this entity and force them in haste to change their orders to it under the pretext of world peace and Nobel Prize. And last but not least, the best part. Since you have done nothing for the hungry and oppressed Muslims in Palestine, then at the very least take a modest decision to avoid your own annihilation.
Exactly, and
Yeah,
just
100%.
on that same line, the Palestinian analyst Assam Abu Al Adas, the legend, he said yesterday, today's Doha summit is the final nail in the coffin of the Arab regimes. The coffin is ready, the corpse has been placed inside, and await the funerals. And well, as Karim said, the summit's still ongoing, but
And as we said in last episode, because this is very sensitive for all the Arabs or for all the people that support the resistance against Israel, is the point that these Arab states or the so-called Arab states, they didn't sit far and they didn't do anything as people think. No, these people for decades fought Hezbollah, fought Syria, fought Iraq, and fought Yemen, and eventually after what happened in Gaza, the only countries that stood against Israel are Hezbollah, the Iraqi resistance, Syria, and Yemen. And that tells many things. They didn't start attacking them like after 7 October. No, since the 80s, they are against Hezbollah, they are against Syria, they're against the resistance in Iraq after the invasion of the United States in 2003, and they were against Yemen, Ansarullah, since 2014, and then they launched a war on Yemen in 2015 on behalf of the United States and Israel, and they did the same in Lebanon. In Lebanon, Hezbollah refused to make a civil war, but the civil war was cooked and ready since 2009 with the Gulf money, including Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia had like the political leaders, and Qatar, they did some figures like Ahmad al-Asir and these stuff. These people are like, they used to cut roads and are ready to kill any guy who's with the resistance or a Shia passing by. That's only Lebanon. And Syria, we all know, they said it. The Qatari foreign minister and prime minister said it, that we paid,
Former.
yeah,
Yeah.
the former one. He said that we paid X for any soldier who deviated from the regime or from the Syrian army, and we paid 50 times more for any a general who deviated from the army. They did it, they paid billions of dollars to destroy their countries, and these countries, willingly or unwillingly, and with their notice or without their notice, they were protecting the Gulf countries. And after these countries and parties were weakened by Israel, and also not because of the power of Israel, I also blame the resistance. They played it so soft on Israel, and this led to what we are living in. And this eventually led to Qatar being bombed, and not even knowing how they were bombed. This is very serious question. We, the Gulf countries, are weaker than knowing how they were bombed. There is no statement from any Gulf country knowing how Israel bombed them. And it's like around, I don't know, 1,500 kilometers away, around 1,000 miles, a plane came and bombed another country who's like,
1,800 kilometers,
yeah,
1,800.
yeah, around 1,000 miles, and you don't know how you were bombed, and you pay billions of dollars for your arms and to please the United States. And the first thing after they were bombed, I told, I think Seema, she was next to me. I said, if Qatar gave Trump the most expensive plane in the world and they bombed them 10 missiles, what if they didn't even give him anything?
Exactly. Good point, Karim. I want to thank Shannon L for their super chat. They ask, how do you not lose hope for the resistance? Well, I do not know how to answer that. I will quote the man behind me. It's better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. And I think we all got here to that in one way or another. Karim, you bring up...
And also there's physical things, especially in the Arab world, that tells us don't stop resisting, of course. And I am Lebanese, I am from Lebanon. Lebanon used to occupy South Lebanon to Beirut in the 80s.
Lebanon
And
or Israel?
Israel, you mean?
Israel, sorry, Israel used to occupy Lebanon all the way from the south to Beirut, and by the resistance in 2000 they were forced out.
Karim, you brought up Yemen right now, and I don't know, I'm going to throw you a curveball because we didn't discuss this before we went on, but I saw this report in Al Akbar a few hours ago in which they were talking about some political movements in Aden, or Aden, I don't know how people pronounce it, between the Southern Transitional Council, which is this UAE administration, kind of like de facto side government, and the Presidential Leadership Council, which is the same, but for the Saudi side, right? And that there might be movements to reignite the war inside Yemen. How plausible do you think that is?
I think it's very possible because, as I stated, what happened to Qatar doesn't weaken or allow Saudi Arabia and UAE to deviate from Israel and the United States. Just 3 days ago, after Qatar was bombed, Saudi Arabia downed drones and missiles heading to Israel. At least if they want to show them that, okay, we are angry, at least they wouldn't down these missiles. At least till now, they are still protecting the Israelis. So, and we have to know, yes, Sima,
No. They're just, I wanted to respond to a comment when you're done.
you will. هلا, regarding what's happening in Yemen, yes, if you see the region from their perspective, for them it's done. It's the time to finish everything, finish Hezbollah in Lebanon, finish the resistance or PMU in Iraq, and finish Ansarullah in Yemen. So this is the time for them. And I said it months ago, and I think last year, Yemen or Ansarullah in Yemen, they are the ones that should initiate the attack. If they wait, as Bashar al-Assad did in Syria, maybe now they are strong, maybe after 3 years they are not strong, maybe after 5 years they are not strong. So I think they should be prepared, and there is a big chance for Saudis to launch such an attack.
I
Yes,
think
Seema.
they should be careful. Go ahead, Sima.
Yeah, we have a comment after the super chat. Someone says, you guys are against all hope for any resistance. I mean, personally, I didn't really understand the comment, but I wouldn't be getting up I wouldn't be getting out of bed every day if that was the case for me personally. I think that there's a lot of nuance in this subject, and you can be very pro-resistance without being delusional. So if we are here talking about how certain things are going very badly, it never means that we gave up hope in the resistance. Karim gave the example of Lebanon, but all you have to do is look at Gaza, and you will understand. You will have your answer to the question: how can you have hope? You have hope because it's not a choice.
No, it's
Maybe he thinks that Qatar is the resistance, and
No,
we're
I don't
talking
know.
against
Maybe
them.
maybe we
but
misunderstood, but
it's because
maybe
Karim.
it's because Karim comes on here and he's like this, that, and everyone sees him as so pessimistic. But Karim, I can vouch for. Karim has never given up hope in resistance as an idea. If he talks about certain mistakes that he personally thinks certain entities made, or that's not the same thing as giving up hope. In
Karim is
resistance.
Mumena to
None
the
of us
bone.
would be here, but personally, I don't like, being delulu either, or having like entire podcast episodes just, emanating all
No,
this
it's
opium for everyone to
it's
swallow
obviously
up. Like,
it's a
yeah.
difficult situation. It's obviously a very difficult, like for the people in West Asia across. Look at what's happening in Syria. My God, we barely get to talk about it. But the situation is catastrophic. The situation in Lebanon is hanging by a thread, and at any point, we have go back the idea of the entirety of these Arab leaders taking this very, tepid, very timid stance. When you have a nation that is committing a Holocaust, is boasting about the Holocaust is committing. I mean, we had we posted about the Twitter of Israel Katz, in which he puts this picture of this video of the Gaza building being destroyed, and he jokes about it. You have Netanyahu, being Netanyahu. You have Marco Rubio today calling Palestinians barbaric animals and saying that it all started in October 7th, right? So it's this is existential. And we have said this before, that if Israel managed to achieve the victories that it did against the resistance, against Iran, against Hezbollah, by essentially destroying Syria. Hit pause for a second, Karim, so I can finish my thought. It's because they treated it as existential, while the others, unfortunately, did not. I think we should listen to what Rubio had to say here, because I think we can discuss many of the things he mentions.
Palestinian state. The only impact they actually have is it makes Hamas feel more emboldened. It makes other elements.
Can you restart
like
it,
Hamas
Karim?
feel
Because I
more
think what he
emboldened.
says at the beginning is most important.
These things that people are doing and these different countries are doing at the United Nations, first of all, they're largely being done because of their own domestic politics. Second of all, they're largely symbolic. They have really no impact whatsoever in bringing us any closer to a Palestinian state. The only impact they actually have is it makes Hamas feel more emboldened. It makes other elements like Hamas feel more emboldened. It actually has made it harder. It's actually served as an impediment to peace. In the past, we have seen when these statements have come out, maybe there's a negotiation going on. Maybe you think you've actually made some progress on getting some hostages released or an end to the war. And then these things come out, and all of a sudden these groups back off. In many cases, walk away. Hamas has walked away.
Okay,
From
hit stop.
agreements that they actually
because
had
there's a couple of things here
tacitly agreed to.
that
But then they see
I want to highlight. Well, actually, no. But there's one thing I want to highlight, and it's just like such a master. Like Rubio here is putting on display the U.S. Political jargon, right? The double speak. That you say one truth, and then you say a complete fabrication. Because what he says at the beginning, when he says what they're doing at the UN about recognizing a Palestinian state is not going to change anything, unfortunately, it is true. The reality on the ground is not going to change. Over 140 countries already recognize the state of Palestine, and it has not stopped this Holocaust. It hasn't even slowed it down. So, having Spain and France and everyone else, it's about the pressure that they are facing internally. Look at what happened yesterday in Spain in the bicycle race in La Vuelta. That, you had this mass of people, 100,000 protesters come together in the Spanish capital to put a stop to that race because an Israeli team was participating. France, something, we've seen similar cases. We see it across the world, the condemnation, the outrage, and political leaders are responding in kind, right? They're trying to wash their hands of the genocide and at the same time gain some political points by going to the UN and giving these nice speeches and signing this declaration that would recognize the Palestinian state, while the Israelis laugh all the way to the Riviera of the Middle East. And then what he says next is Hamas has walked away from talks. Like he says, oh, you think that at some point we had some breakthrough and, we're going to finally reach a deal. And then because Hamas leaders feel emboldened, because people are upset about a freaking genocide happening right in front of our eyes, then Hamas walks away from the table, which is a complete fabrication. Even the families of the captives, the Israeli military, the negotiators themselves have gone on television and said the Israeli government is the one sabotaging the talks. Day in and day out, they do not want a hostage deal, a captive release deal. Nevertheless, that's not what we are going with right here with the narrative, right? The narrative is the barbaric animals are that and need to be eradicated, and the people of light, the chosen people, get whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean, there's something else about us not knowing really what's going on behind closed doors with Rubio's visit, by the way. And it could have something to do with the next moves on the West Bank.
More
because
likely
there's a
than
lot
not,
of
yeah.
escalation happening there. Just something
They
wanted.
raided the home of the wait, I have his name somewhere here. No, I closed it. Of the Oscar winner, the documentarian, the Palestinian who won an Oscar a few months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, what I wanted to mention was just the fact that today alone, which doesn't often happen, in fact, doesn't happen at all. Today alone, the Israeli occupation forces have installed at least 10 iron gates in the West Bank. I mean, this always happens, but not at this rate. So this is an accelerated pace. And this is all over, near Bethlehem, near Jerusalem, north of, near Ramallah, in Jenin. And again, Azam Abu al-Adas, the legend, said, is it a coincidence that the accelerated pace of gate installations in the West Bank coincides with the military maneuvers being conducted across the territory and with Rubio's visit? Or is it just a coincidence? In politics, there are no coincidences. So I'm just, usually when these kinds of visits take place, something bad happens shortly afterwards. So I
think it's also interesting that you have Rubio now in Israel, because he had been sidelined for what is this, month 9, month 8 of Trump's presidency still? And he was essentially sidelined. He was just kept at home and, dealing with the ICE raids and the war against Venezuela, etc. But now he's back. Now he's in Israel. Now he finally, the state secretary, because remember, during the Biden presidency, most of what was being done by Israel, it had the de facto support, of course, of the Biden White House, but it was Antony Blinken who would always show up, the state secretary. But then for the past several months, it hasn't been Marco Rubio. It has been Steve Witkoff, the guy who has been leading, and Tom Barrack. And now you have Rubio finally making his way to Israel and, essentially saying, we are behind Israel 100%, 120%, as much as they need, they will get. And this, of course, also brings into question the idea that at some point we floated here in this podcast that was, is Donald Trump going to let go of the hand of Benjamin Netanyahu? And honestly, at this point, that seems impossible. I don't know what you guys think, but I honestly don't see it happening.
Unless there is only one copy of the videos and he takes them.
You really think it's about the Epstein tapes?
Wallah, no way, man. There's no other thing, man.
I do.
He can be a Zionist. But currently he's acting not as a Zionist. He's acting as a Netanyahuist. You know what I mean? It's everything about Netanyahu. They can out Netanyahu, get another Zionist, and continue. But they don't want. They can't.
I think we saw a glimpse into the Trump, into the inside of Trump's mind over the weekend when he was asked about the Charlie Kirk assassination. When this reporter asks him, right, gives the condolences and says, how are you holding up? And he's like, I think I'm doing good. Oh, and by the way, we're installing a new candelabra or whatever the hell, like some new lights or something in the ballroom, and it's going to be amazing. They have been trying to do this for 150 years. I thought this dude was your friend, man. Like, he died 2 days ago.
No, I mean, that tells you something. I won't say more than that, but that speaks to CIA Mossad,
I mean, to be fair, the guy who's in jail right now, this scrawny kid who was like getting an electrical engineering degree for electricity or something, to be an electrician. What a good shot. What a good shot. He hit the jugular. He hit the jugular from 200 meters away. He
I
must
don't
have,
buy
you
it.
know, he must have done a lot of practice shooting at the arcade or something. I don't know about that.
Yeah, he wasn't
Uh,
alone. But the point was over the weekend, Max Blumenthal also, I saw Max Blumenthal talking about how Trump insiders told him that Trump fears for his life from Israel. I mean, sure, I don't doubt that, although I don't always believe everything Max Blumenthal says, but I don't doubt that. It's just that Trump is totally aligned with Netanyahu. If they, like Swaydan said last time, like Mohammed Swaydan said last time, if they disagree, it's on the execution of certain things. Like maybe they are blackmailed, they do have dirt on them, but like Trump loves him. And anyone who says Trump's had it with him, and we had a news story, right? Last week, was it? Was it Friday or was it
what
this
was
week?
it?
I'm losing my mind. Where we had a headline, the Cradle had a headline that was like Western media recycles
Ah,
old
yes.
narrative.
Yes.
What was it?
I think that
Recycles
was
narrative
Friday. Yeah, yeah, it
of
was like about this political report about like Netanyahu just being about done. No, I'm sorry, Trump
Trump
being just
being
about
done with
done.
Netanyahu.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
which is like we saw the same Axios reports written by the Israeli Mossad agent Barak Ravid about
yeah.
Biden. Like it's just like, oh,
No,
Biden's so mad,
when
Trump's
I
so
saw that
mad.
political report, I went, and I went to like, I asked AI. I was like, how many reports have there been saying this since October 7, 2023? And he gave me 46. He told me there's been 46 reports in major Western media outlets saying that both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are just fed up with Netanyahu. They are just sick of it.
Yeah.
46 times? I don't know, something's wrong here, something smells here. I want to thank very quickly Heman Patel. They made a couple of super chats.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. In any case, I feel like, I don't think anything new has come out of the Arab Summit, but there's something else happening today that I feel like warrants discussion from us. Syria is holding elections. The democratic liberal, diversity-friendly government in Syria is holding parliamentary elections today. And who's voting, you might ask? No one. Citizens are barred from voting, but elections are taking place. I don't know. Wait, let me see if I sent you this link, Karim, because they have a good. No, I did not. I'm gonna send you an image, Karim, so we can put on screen. But yeah, the parliamentary elections are being held today for the new Syrian parliament under self-appointed President Ahmad al-Shara, formerly known as the head chopper in chief, or well, no, actually now he should be known as the head chopper in chief. This is a show, right? What else could it be? It's a show to have the veil of legitimacy, right? At the same time as I think it was a week ago, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights came out with a report saying that there's been at least 10,000 extrajudicial executions or deaths. There's been like at least 10,000 deaths in Syria since Shara takes power, and at the very least, 3,000 of those are civilians. You have, I think just a few days ago, they were still fighting with the Kurds. The situation in Suwaid is still bad. The Alawites, Syrian government forces have essentially evicted 90% of an Alawite majority neighborhood in the south of Damascus over the past several weeks. Under this context, Syria is electing its new parliamentary election. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that while I try to pull up this report that I want to put on screen.
No, I mean, I just have a question. Maybe someone can answer, but I mean, how common is that? Like, aren't parliamentary elections like don't you usually have civilian votes determining
It depends. It
parliamentary
depends,
elections?
Seema. If you're like new ruler or new god is Saudi Arabia, that's how it works.
Hey, when's the last time Saudi Arabia had any elections?
They don't even have constitution.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, but I mean, if we're going by what Sharia has claimed Syria will be, not
Um,
like, oh yeah, like of course, we don't have civilian votes determining.
Look, to be honest, personally, I don't care. I don't care if it's Democrats, if there's a king who rules a country, if he's a dictator, whatever. What I care is about the country. The country of Syria, it's heading into chaos. That's it. Yani. You know what I mean? Of course, they did many, I think, stupid things and things that will make people laugh. And for instance, they are killing the minorities and they are like a new government for democracy and blah, blah, blah. And you see in Damascus now many many, what do they call, big panels, commercials, ads,
Banners, the banners.
banners, and the banners that Syria is very good now with the United States, and the United States people love Syria and we work together for democracy. So, and last time they made last week, not last time, last week they made like a big like concert in Syria for new people to come and visit Syria, and at the same time the the Israelis bombed like 20 kilometers away, and
That's
they
where
didn't
Sharas
even.
was speaking. He was giving a speech.
Yeah, yeah, and no one said that Israel is bombing, because they don't want to ruin the moment. That's for me stupidity. So
We have a new super chat and a marriage proposal on the chat. Thank you so much, Don Sugar. Well, Sima, I don't know if you're open for the
I mean, you
proposal.
don't even have a photo. How can I marry you if you don't even have a photo?
Karim,
But
I
thank
sent
you
you.
so much. Thank you for your contribution and for the question. I mean, yeah, Don Zuger. Someone says you must be an American. The dowry is $100,000. I mean, start with a photo.
I think that's where it starts. Karim, I sent you an image. I sent you an image because these parliamentary elections, here's where it gets interesting, right? The process is going to start today and it's going to continue until Saturday with possible extensions, right? Just for this to be as democratic as possible. Regional electoral committees will select 140 seats out of Syria's 210 seat parliament. The other 70 MPs are going to be selected personally by the head chopper-in-chief himself, Abu Mohammed al-Julani, Amir Ahmad al-Shara. So this is what a democratic process looks like in the new Syria that's open for business, that is just getting billions and billions of dollars from the Saudis, from Turkey, from the IMF, from the World Bank, to be living under this government. I'm sorry, I mean, I use sarcasm a lot, but truly the situation is horrible. But yes, this is kind of the breakdown of how these seats are going to be selected. The Supreme Committee of that is controlled by Shara is going to elect the subcommittees that then in turn will elect the 140 seats, and the other third will literally be handpicked by Ahmad al-Shara. They are not including Suwaida. They are not including the Turkish-controlled areas of Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor, and I think at the north as well of the city of
Raqqa.
and others. So this is again just a veil of legitimacy to justify why they lifted sanctions, why they removed the terror designation from Al Qaeda in Syria, why they removed why Ahmad al-Shara is now going to the UN in a few days. He's gonna make his debut. He's gonna be like a debutante ball. I'm sure by the arm of Donald Trump, or better yet, the arm of Benjamin Netanyahu. He'll be walking down there and possibly telling us about the democratic process in Syria, in which the entire parliament is handpicked by the man who founded Al Qaeda in Syria and was the deputy commander of the founder of ISIS himself.
Yeah, this is a typical Arab move. This reminds me with Sisi when he came to power. He said that he's here only to not to allow the country to fall, and he doesn't want anybody to elect him. Then he was elected. Then he said this is the last election because our constitution says that only president should be elected only twice. Then he he manipulated the constitution to third time, and then to all for life. And now this is the fourth time he was elected. So the same will go to Syria unless. When the Americans and Israelis are fine with you, you can do whatever you want. As simple as that.
Indeed. There was another report over the last few days. I don't know if Sima, you have anything to say about these elections. These
No,
free elections
I
in
mean,
Syria.
no. I mean, I have other stuff to say about Syria, but we can say that another time. It's not related to the elections. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, the situation in Syria, like I said, is catastrophic, really. Last week, Ahmad al-Shara also gave us an interview on TV in which he said something interesting. He said, after we took Aleppo, in the flash offensive against the Syrian Arab army, we came to an agreement with the Russians to allow us to take control of the country. And he's essentially admitting the Russians kind of gave the thumb down to Assad, and we were there to pick up the pieces. We've heard similar what would the word be here? Rumors, similar rumors about the Iranians as well, because I think the IRGC it started removing some of its forces from Syria before the fall of the government, and then I think we've documented pretty well how it happened. How in 2 weeks, Giuliani and his band of thugs just marched on Damascus and took power with absolutely no resistance. Um, I don't know if I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Karim, in particular, do you think that that Russia was in on it? To
For me, to be honest, I will be frank. I don't care even if Russia was part of it. I want an Arab state to be strong. If a president of an Arab state left his country because Russia told him to leave or forced him to leave, he was never a president of this country. That's my opinion. The same applies to the Gulf nations that are controlled by the Americans. They are not real leaders or real kings or whatever because they are controlled by foreign countries. So if it's Russia or United States or Israel or even Turkey, they are all the same to me. Arabs should build strong nations. Presidents of the Arab nations should work for their nation. We should be sovereign countries, not as what happened and what is happening around us. If Russia did that, I think I will not defend Russia, but I will think as Russians think maybe. They saw that they thought that maybe Ukraine will be finished in 1 year, and they couldn't, and they wanted this equipment, and Syria was like a heckle for them after all these many years, and the war didn't end. And of course, you have the relationship with Israel, which also, if you agree or disagree, but nobody can say no that Israel didn't have a say in this. And even in prior attacks, of course, Russian did knew that Israel will attack the Syrian army, and I think somehow they prevented the Syrian army to attack back. So that's my thoughts. If Russia did it, if Russia didn't do it, if United States did it or not, I don't blame them. I blame the government of these countries, in this case Syria, that couldn't take a correct decision and couldn't protect their country. And of course, they didn't. Bashar al-Assad didn't even leave a televised statement or a written statement. He just vanished, which is very weird.
Remember there were reports a few weeks ago that he had given an interview to some. I don't remember if he
Yeah,
was
but
an Arab man.
and disappeared. But it's too late.
Yeah.
And for instance, if Bashar al-Assad came to the camera and said, "Okay, I have to leave. I don't want another civil war. I don't want 100,000 people to die again. I hope blah blah blah," and laughed, he will at least have an image for people that supported him. For instance, what happened in Sahel is because Bashar al-Assad left like this. Of course, I
You mean
blame.
the coast? The coast.
Yeah, the cost. Of course, when Giuliani came, we knew that such things will happen. But Bashar al-Assad didn't give time to his supporters. He left. Second day, we saw what happened in the borders in Lebanon. And we know that now Lebanon is somehow a Zionist state. We stand with Israel. Our government stands with Israel. So they will not help any people that will come from Syria that used to support Bashar al-Assad. Here we only take orders from the United States and Saudi Arabia. So, that's my thoughts.
There was
I
some
mean-
information beforehand that it was the Turks who kind of gave them the heads up to the Russians and told them, the Assad's gone. Because remember, months before, it was Turkey that was trying, no, it was Russia that was trying to mediate talks between Assad and Erdogan to normalize.
Yes.
And Assad was very intransigent about this, I mean, I don't judge.
Yeah, and even here in the office, I used to tell them he should sit with Turkey. Why not? Turkey is geographically and historically on the borders with Syria. He refused. That's one. And all what we are saying, we should not forget that this happened because Sayyid Hassan was assassinated, Hezbollah was weakened, and Russia couldn't maybe protect Bashar al-Assad alone. And of course, we know that there was many sanctions from the United States in the past years, and especially Caesar Act, which killed the economy of Syria and didn't allow anybody to enter any dollar or any foreign currency to Syria. So all these added up. But I am against any president who is willing to leave his people and his country because another foreign country told him to do so. Yani, if I was there, I prefer to die for my land and on my land rather than going out of my country.
Exactly right, Karim. I couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, there's another thing, and I guess we're gonna go full circle here because I want to bring us back to Gaza now. And this is a bit difficult because this involves a lot of numbers. Although I think I just lost the website I had open.
Well, take your time. I mean, I just wanted to mention one thing quickly before you get into that, because I know what you're
Seema
about.
loves Russia, yeah. Sorry, Seema, I know you
Oh,
love
no, I don't
Russia.
want to talk about Russia. I mean, Russia has a role to play in the fall of Assad. Doesn't mean it was Russia alone, but I'm not going to get into that now. Don't worry, Karim. I know what 50% of the cradle thinks and what the other 50% thinks. Not going to get into it. So this morning, 7 children lost their lives at Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis in South Gaza. 4 unborn fetuses and 3 premature infants in incubators. And these deaths were due to the dire conditions faced by their mothers, including severe malnutrition, trauma, and exhaustion from repeated displacement amid Israel's ongoing barbaric genocide in Gaza. Now, we were talking already about the high-rise buildings and the residential towers that they're erasing in broad daylight every day. That hasn't ended. That's ongoing. Just today, we have new footage of these residential towers being erased. I saw somewhere, in fact, I saw yesterday that the Israeli Army radio claimed that 300,000 people have left Gaza City so far. Now, those are Israeli Army radio estimates, but I'm just putting that out there. And then again today, the Israeli Army radio claimed that the pace of evacuating Gaza City is slow, and that may affect the start of the ground operation and the occupation of Gaza, or Gideon's Vehicles 2, as they call it. Now, people are leaving, others are refusing to leave, but the point is, it's such a catastrophic position, that, situation, people have nowhere to go at all. And many of them don't want to go to the center or the south. And it's a very difficult scene it's a very difficult scene to see, to be honest with you, very difficult. And really, I'm sorry, I still want to I just wanted to say, on Sunday, they had already destroyed 12 residential towers, which contained 500 apartments. And this resulted in the displacement of over 10,000 people, well over. And it's more now because it's Monday today. More than 120 residential buildings, all of this in less than a week, by the way, nearly. And that displaced more than another 7,200 people and damaged to over 500 buildings partially, depriving nearly 30,000 people of shelter, and the destruction of more than 600 displacement tents that were housing displaced families, leaving no less than an additional 6,000 people homeless, just to put you in the picture of what's happening right now. Before
the last time I saw a number, it was 50,000 people left homeless. I think this was Friday or Saturday, just in Gaza City, by the way. Yes. Okay. So before I get into what I want to bring up, and just to underline what Sima is saying, it's not just the bombing; it's the starvation as well. And the OCHA's Gaza spokesperson a few days ago said that Israel is blocking over 430 food items, including frozen meat, eggs, cheese, dairy, frozen vegetables and fruit, fortified foods for patients and pregnant women, and hundreds of other items. The only thing that Gaza is receiving right now is flour, cooking oil, basic ration packages, limited commercial goods that are often expensive and not nutritious. This is an attempt to make sure that the future generation of Palestinian children who survive this Holocaust are weak, are physically weak, are mentally weak, that will not be able to develop. This is a war not just on the population of Gaza right now, it's a war on the population of Gaza of the future. It's the strategy of mowing the lawn at its absolute worst. And this thing that I want to bring up, let me actually read the title very quickly. It's a report called Curing History, the Odious Politics of Counting Gaza's Dead. And this is an article that was published, I think this is an Australian magazine, in which they bring together many of the reports we have already heard. You know, the Lancet last year, early last year, they estimated that if the genocide stopped then, the death toll could probably surpass 100,000. And they said, you know, given the circumstances of the bombing and the circumstances of what Israel's doing, it could possibly go past 500,000 Palestinians killed. A few months ago, there was also another. I think it was. I don't know if it was the Lancet or not, but there was another study recently that also talked about, you know, the very large death toll in Gaza. In this report that I have here right now, they are talking about that if you consider the Lancet estimates and the fact that scientists have determined that the Gaza Health Ministry is underreporting deaths by at least 40%, the death toll in Gaza as of April 2025 could reach 680,000 deaths. And that is on violent deaths and indirect deaths, but what they call deaths by deprivation. And that could be, you know, the starvation, the lack of drinking water, you know, all of the children who are essentially left without a family, the child amputees. I mean, you know, I don't need to go into the details of the disaster that has befallen the Palestinians right now. And this is also based on an article that an epidemiologist, Professor David Stridhar, wrote in The Guardian, saying that a conservative estimate of 4 indirect deaths per 1 direct death. We know that the number of the death toll from the Palestinian Health Ministry is the, how do you call it? Is the starting point. It's where it starts. It's the bodies they've been able to recover, and oftentimes the bodies they've been able to recover in one piece, because when they come in pieces, they do not really count them. So 64,000 is bare minimum. And now we have this report that kind of brings together everything we have heard and talks about that as of April, as many as 700,000 Palestinians may have been killed already. And there's no way to confirm this. There's absolutely no way to confirm this because journalists are not allowed into Gaza, because the Gaza Health Ministry is working with the absolute bare minimum. You know, for nearly 2 years now, they've been barely getting by. And I mean, I don't know what else to say about these guys. It's just like, it's nearly half the population of Gaza already that could be gone. And there's no way to prove that this is or isn't the case, because Israel is simply not allowing anyone to come in. And well, the intensity of their campaign, as you just said, it's intense. It's getting worse. I think you might be muted, Sima.
Oh, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, no, I have nothing to say about it. I mean, it's been a struggle, a big struggle for me every day.
Yeah, it's for us all, I think, and for every person who thinks about his fellow human, and knowing that most of these people, not most of, and all of these people that died, they died just because Netanyahu is angry, and nobody can stop Netanyahu.
And not just because that nobody can stop Netanyahu, Karim, because nobody wants to stop Netanyahu.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know, like you have the Yemeni government, you have Hezbollah up to a point, and Iran when they got attacked. But other than that, it's been them on their own. And I think this brings us back to what we were just discussing about the Russians in Syria. You know, what might have been their role in what happened in Syria. And I think at the end of the day, it just goes to show you, no one's going to come to save you. No one's going to come to save the Palestinians. You know, the Sumud flotilla, all my love, all my support. I hope they make it. More likely than not, they're going to get arrested. The summit tonight, I don't know if you guys have any more information. I haven't seen anything. I think she's going to end up in the same tepid statements as they always do. The popular protest, they have to continue. They have to grow. But Western politicians are going to use them for their own benefit. They're going to declare a Palestinian state, and yet you're going to have, once the dust settles, possibly more than half of the population of Gaza killed.
Yeah, like
No one wants to stop it, like you said. Sorry, Karim, that's the truth. And speaking of protests, there was a big protest in Tangier in Morocco yesterday. It was quite a big one, actually, very big. Go ahead, Karim.
So no, I was reading what happened in in the summit, they said that Gulf Cooperation Council, which is GCC, said that the meeting will direct the military leadership to take measures to activate joint defense mechanism and deterrence capabilities after what happened in Qatar. So I think that's it. I don't know.
Is
Oh,
this?
okay, so they'll be more ready for the next attack.
Yes,
Oh.
that's what I
Oh, that's
understood. Yeah.
amazing. Great. I'm so
So
happy.
maybe instead of having like a U.S. Marine running their radar, they'll sit down like an actual Qatari or an actual Saudi, who's not on the payroll of the U.S. of CENTCOM. My God, man, I don't know what else to say.
No comment.
I think we've covered many things today. I want to thank everyone for joining us. To remind you to please hit that like button, leave a comment after we're done. Just leave a comment. It's always good, not just for the algorithm, but also for our own, for ourselves. We like to read your comments. Check out our memberships here in YouTube, and more important of all, check out our Patreon, where you can become a direct supporter of the Cradle. We need your help now more than ever. The censorship is very, very real, and we are
Just
gonna
want to
continue.
answer a last question. Don Zuger
ahead.
asked, will the flotilla do any good? My opinion is no. So I'll just keep that quickly since we're wrapping up.
I mean, it's about what it means. I think about more than what it actually can achieve, because you're talking about like just a bunch of
Yeah,
of
it sets a
ships.
precedent for
Yeah.
sure. It sets a precedent for people to move. But I mean,
Yeah. No. Like in the reality, the flotilla is, to me, it's similar to the whole Palestinian state at the UN. It's going to set a precedent. It's going to be there. It's going to be something that we can point at. And more than anything, I feel like it shows that there's people who are willing to take that risk, the flotilla in this case, not the UN thing. And I think that matters. I think that matters, but unfortunately, Israel is acting with impunity, and everyone that could stop them just kind of shrugs and goes like, well, I guess that's life. In any case, guys, thank you so much. Did not mean to leave you on such a downer of a note, but unfortunately, we are leaving on very down
we're just
times.
realistic.
Very
Yeah.
realistic, yes. So
Yeah.
thank you. We shall see you on Thursday at the same time. And well, that's it. Bye-bye.